induce cirrhosis or heart disease.
David, are you able to hear us at all?
Mike is on there.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
I see two of the counselors here. Who else am I looking for here?
Wes?
Yeah, Wes. I don't see him here yet. Oh, I'm sure he'll be on shortly.
Yeah, Wes is here. So is Mayor.
David, they're just not logged on to Zoom.
Okay.
Mike's not gonna.
That's a good login.
Sit over here. You want us to log in?
Oh, internet.
I had that problem too when I first opened my computer.
Yeah, don't look at it.
Connected now.
Which
Nice.
one?
Host the council.
Maybe I'll find Ray Watkins one. I'm gonna keep it Ray's around. I'll just keep putting Ray's out there. See if anybody knows.
My kids still think that you're Ray.
You know what? I take that as a compliment.
Absolutely.
What's it? Password?
What's the council?
I don't know.
It is,
Sent it to you before.
yeah. It is,
Automatically.
the meaning of life
Yeah.
is 42,
That's all.
period. Only the
Oh,
T,
Diane wants in.
And I have to remember that period.
and spaces between each one.
Oh,
The meaning of life is 42, period.
That's from that.
That's Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
I remember it.
I asked the same question, I'm like, you're,
Oh, what's wrong with you
I
guys?
still want you to watch that. Alex, yeah.
Don't know if your gloves are-
Okay, so it is 1:30. I am told that Councillor Broadhead and Mayor Herron are present there in the boardroom. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see them connected to the Zoom call.
Trying.
we're trying.
Okay, I'll just hold off a bit then.
We don't need to be there, do we?
Councillor Broadhead does. Well, technically, we have quorum, but then he won't participate in the selection of a chair if he's not in the meeting.
We can see him. We're all here, David.
I'm thinking about the public. Can the public see them?
Oh, okay.
Well, because this is a hybrid meeting, both the MGA and the regulation are very specific that the public has to be able to see you as well as you see each other.
Hi, David, it's Cheryl. We can see on the Zoom platform, we can see the DCB, the people in there.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but
Well, can I hear them? Councillor Broadhead, can you speak so I can be sure I hear you?
Good afternoon, David. I'm signing on right now.
We never
anyway.
speak through our mics in our computer anyway. Failed to start.
Okay, although this is not ideal, I think we can proceed. We've met all the requirements here. So I'm starting the meeting. I'm going to just be the temporary chair until such time as a chair for this committee is selected. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And for anyone watching who doesn't know, my name is David Lafleur. I'm the Chief Legislative Officer. This is the one and only time I chair council committee meetings when we're at the very beginning of a council term and we're selecting chairs. So that is the first order of business then, to select a chair. So would anyone from among councillors Jolie, Killick, and Broadhead, would anyone like to nominate one of your colleagues to be chair? Or if you would like to be chair yourself and you feel you have no friends, you can nominate yourself. So,
I'd like to make I'd like to nominate Natalie Jolly as chair.
Councillor Jolie, you have just been nominated. Do you accept that nomination?
Yeah, I accept.
Okay. Anyone else like to nominate one of the three council members other than Councillor Jolie for the position of chair? I'm going to wait a second here. Seeing no one, I hereby declare Councillor Jolie by acclamation to be the new chair of this committee. Congratulations, and I will joyfully relinquish the gavel to you at this time.
Thank you. I told these guys that the vice chair needs to take over next year. So with that, we can move on to the election of the vice chair. Hey, Wes, do you want to make a nomination?
I would. Like to nominate-
I'll actually offer to self-nominate myself as vice chair to work on this important committee.
Okay, thank you. Anything
I was
else?
gonna nominate you, Mike.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting the other committee isn't important?
It's equally important, I think.
Oh, all right.
So we've got Councillor Killick has self-nominated, Councillor Broadhead, you're not going to self-nominate.
I am not.
Okay, so by acclamation, we have Councillor Killick as vice chair, which thank you very much. Next up on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. So any concerns, changes that anyone would like to see? All right, I'm not hearing anything from Councillor Killick or Councillor Broadhead. Anyone else in the room? No. Okay, so I will adopt that as presented. Next up is appointments. Brittany, we don't have anyone, eh? No appointments today. Which brings us to the approval of the minutes. Any concerns, changes to those minutes? No. Okay, I'm going to adopt those as presented. And that brings us really to our only business today, which is the property tax relief policy presentation. And I believe we have Mr. Bannerman here for a presentation.
Good afternoon. I have a quick PowerPoint presentation here. Shouldn't take too long, but just this is in anticipation of the December 6th property tax relief request. I'm not certain, should I be sharing my screen or do we have the PowerPoint prepared?
Stephen, you'll have to share your screen.
Certainly.
Okay, thanks.
Did you break it? You broke it.
Okay, I hope everyone can see my presentation right now. Property tax relief request 2021. Presented by myself, Stephen Bannerman, City Assessor, Assessment Taxation.
Stephen, just go to the slide presentation you've got. We can see everything on the left side.
Oh, that would take away my slide notes, but that's okay. Sure enough.
Well, otherwise, we can see them as well. I was just saying.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, no, that's perfect. No, thank you. All right, a background. The Taxation Department is inundated with requests for tax relief each year, primarily due to the imposition of tax penalties for late payment. Administration can only cancel or defer tax penalties if the city administratively has made an error, omission, or misdescription. Section 347 of the Municipal Government Act allows only council to reduce, refund, or defer a portion of property taxes. Section 203 prohibits council from delegating this power to administration ourselves. Thus, council only has the ability to provide leniency in instances where the city has not erred. The purpose of this policy, CFS 15, is to provide council with a framework or guide in how it will respond to property requests for property tax relief. So essentially is to let council have a set of goalposts, but still allow council to use its own discretion in these requests. So finally, we bring clarity to property owners on when types of requests for tax relief are being deemed acceptable. And that's the purpose of this policy. It started in 2009, it was updated in 2019. Tax relief principles. So when considering these requests, we look at fairness and equity to all taxpayers, sustainability of the municipal revenues, and simplicity, transparency, predictability, and stability. How the process works. Assessment taxation will receive requests for property tax forgiveness. If we feel we haven't erred in that process, we provide a standardized request form, and it is typically emailed to the ratepayer. It's administered by the tax department, and this just provides a consistency of process, which council will see in our December 6th attachment. Will have each one of those individual requests. And typically there's about 12 or 13 each year. This year's a little bit different, but I'll get into that. So an example of typical penalties. So when incurring a tax penalty, which is the majority of requests that we receive, penalty amounts may vary, but typically if you look at a house on the left graph there, assessed at $450,000, the tax penalties are anywhere from $200 to $800, depending on if you paid off the July 1st, August 1st, or October 1st penalties. With a condominium, because the assessed value is slightly lower at $275, the requests typically run from $123 to $493 total. Tax relief categories. This is how the policy attached and provided in the agenda report. It's basically structured into two categories: the permissible categories, which run it from compassionate grounds, prior year exemptions, and prior year errors in assessment. Non-permissible categories are organized into failure to receive the notice, payment errors or delays, and natural disasters such as fires, demolitions, earthquakes, other such things as that. Council may provide tax relief for extenuating circumstances that merit compassion. So this is one of the acceptable categories. So an example, the property owner has been in the hospital with critical illness and could not attend to the payment of their taxes prior to the deadline. The tax penalty could be canceled at this point, or delayed or deferred, depending on council's discretion. The second component in the permissible category is exemption eligibility. This actually won't be heard on December 6th, but it's just a reminder for council and the new members of council. Council may provide tax relief for instances where an exempt entity was eligible for tax exemption status. So in this example, a commercial property has been leased and the tenant was unaware that they could have qualified for tax exemption. So 2 years or 3 years have passed by and they realize that the property is indeed tax exempt. A tax refund of 1 year prior to the year could be granted by council. A third example is an assessment error in fact, and council may provide relief from these incidences for 1 year prior as well. And a good example is in the middle. A property owner realizes that their assessment was based on a house size that was substantially different from the actual size, and the error has persisted for several years. Typically, a tax refund equal to the differential in applicable taxes would be for 1 year prior. The administrative process. Requests for tax relief are received intermittently through the year by the tax department. Those that remain unresolved are bundled and presented to council via the agenda report process, typically in Q4. The requester or the property owner is given the opportunity to present their request in writing or in person if they choose to appear. There is one property owner that will be appearing before council on December 6th. They've advised us. Council will deliberate each request and make a property tax relief decision. Decisions will be forwarded to those property owners, and those decisions are final and not considerable appealable. Okay, and a quick portion here for questions by any of the members.
Thank you for that presentation. I'm just going to lead off. So I've never seen this presentation outside of the council meeting where we're making these decisions. So do we have a lot of applications this year, like more than normal?
Through you, Madam Chair, we have 13 requests from property owners for this year, but there are two, I would highlight two. Typically the amount requested in total bundled is approximately $5,000. For this year, it is approximately, I'm just going to go to my notes on this one here. I don't want to give you the wrong number. It is approximately the total sum is $331,000. The reason for that being is there's two individual property requests that are due to a structural fire. And they're substantially higher than what our typical request would be, from the $200 to $800.
Okay, thank you. So any questions on, so we're not looking for feedback on the policy. This is just an FYI. So Councillor Killer, Councillor Broadhead, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you go back to your slide where you detail the exact amount of the fines?
Certainly. I'm just going to it right now, and I'm going to share my screen here. So these would be the typical penalties.
Right.
You bet.
So my question is that we collect taxes on behalf of the province, or we collect theirs. Is that fine inclusive of that amount as well, or are they going to be facing additional, or just tell me how that works?
These are the penalties applied by the city of St. Albert. So the original amount, the original in taxes here, and if you can see my pointer here, would include approximately 24% would be the provinces or the education levy and homeland housing, which you're referring to. The penalty taxes are generated for the city of St. Albert. So those subsequent amounts, the 200 to 800, would not be included.
So if they're late in their taxes, they're going to be subject to bills from the government and from homeland housing?
No, just from the city of St. Albert.
So there's, I'm not sure I follow. Maybe I.
So I think the question is the St. Albert bearing the cost of requisitions being paid late?
Right.
Is that what you're asking?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
No, the city of St. Albert is not bearing the costs of those 201, 302, and 302. The city of St. Albert, as part of that, the penalties within the city of St. Albert are applicable just to the city of St. Albert. They're not part of that provincial requisition.
So I think we're struggling here a little bit. So the provincial requisition, if it doesn't get paid by the homeowner, it's still paid by the city. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. So if I can just jump in here, Councillor Jolly. Yeah, for sure. We pay our requisitions directly to the province on their due dates. So we're never late in total, but we're responsible to collect back on the homeowner. And Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 100. I think what you're saying is that they're charged the penalty on the whole amount of their bill, the municipal portion, the provincial portion, and the homeland housing portion. So it's the total amount owing is what that 4% and 6% is charged on.
That's correct.
Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that.
Yeah, Councillor Killick, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair, Stephen, two questions. One for the copter exemption. Do we proactively communicate with the charitable organizations in advance to let them know that they're tax exempt? Is there a proactive approach, or does that ever come forward and say, oh, we just didn't know? Kind of hard for me to believe that a nonprofit would not know that they were tax exempt.
Through you, Madam Chair, we do proactively work with the known tax exempt organizations. So we're actually have quite a communication with them via emails. But if there was some new property tax exemption point, or I would think of some property owner who had failed to understand that the tenant within their building was property tax exempt and had the city missed it as well. This is the case, but typically we do have with LOSICA and transitions in the city of St. Albert and a number of other nonprofits, Goodwill, things like that. We do actually keep up quite regularly with them, and every 3 years we renew their applications for exemptions just to make sure they qualify.
That's great, thank you. My second question, Stephen, would be with the timing and rates that we charge. It's more of the timing that they apply. I noticed that generally in municipalities around St. Albert, they use a July, September, November schedule, as opposed to the schedule we have, like City of Edmonton, Spruce Grove, Red Deer, Airdrie, all use July, September, November escalation. And I wondered, do we have a understanding of why we chose the 3-month periods that we have in St. Albert?
Our tax penalties were reviewed 2 years ago. I believe it was 2019 that our tax penalties were reviewed. I'm not certain of the schedule. I couldn't answer towards the calendar of when the penalties were applied, but I do know the city assessor at that time had reviewed other tax penalty bylaws and compared them across the province. So I don't have an exact answer for you there, but I know the policy, the tax penalties were reviewed in 2019, and they were actually reduced slightly in that time from the current penalties that we have on file.
Okay. And I guess my last question is, have we seen an increase due to, you mentioned people in hospital, do you think we'll see an increase due to COVID hospitalizations this year, or are we still in the average number of 12 to 13 applications this year?
The property owners that have requested are around the same amount,
okay.
But it's just the number from the 2 property owners in the 2021 year, which we'll see on December 6th, that there's an anomaly there. But typically over the past 5 years, it's been around a dozen applications that City Council will receive. So we haven't received a spike except for these 2 abnormal applications. Let's put it that way.
And could you give me a sense as to what the normal request would be to defer taxes from just a generic kind of average? Like, are people requesting it because they just forgot to pay, or they were out of the country, or is there?
There's a number of different requests that each one falls into throughout the policy, whether it be deferral or they were out of country, or there's a number of different things that happen. Typically, they fall into a couple of different buckets, and it is property tax penalties that is the primary reason why. For reasons X, Y, or Z, they have not paid their property tax penalties, and they were applied to the account. And that is what a typical request would entail, the forgiveness of that penalty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm kind of looking over here at Mayor Herron and Councillor Broadhead, because they've been around longer than Councillor Mackay and I have been. But I know in the last 4 years, we haven't approved any requests. And I think all the ones that I've seen have been in those 2 permissible, not permissible lists. And is that your experience as well for the terms before? One.
We did one.
We did
one.
Not a residential.
Okay, so a commercial one.
Yep.
Before my time.
And I think it's still.
Okay.
That was a number of years ago.
Yeah. Thank you. And so for this year, Mr. Bannerman, the homeowners who have applied because of the structural fires, they understand that structural fire is expressly not permitted under our policy. Like, they're aware of that. Is that?
They are aware of the policy. We've provided some information to them ahead of time when they've received the application, but then it falls to if the structural fire was uninsurable or insurance proceeds were not 100%. So what it is our response would be follow the MGA's response, which is taxes that have been imposed in respect to improvements are the first charge of any money payable to insurance under a fire. So what we've provided them is that, and they have mentioned that there may have been a portion of the buildings or all the buildings that were uninsured at the time.
Okay. Thank you.
So it would fall to compassionate.
Mr. LaFlarge, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just one point I wanted to underscore here, and it arises from something Mr. Bannerman said, that apparently this year one of the applicants does want to address council. That is rare. It's very, very typically they don't want to do that, because in so doing, of course, they're revealing a tremendous amount of personal information, right? And most people would rather not do that. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, I do think we do give everyone the option to address council, But when they do that, they have to understand that they are revealing personal information, and then they could be subject to questions on that from counselors. However, and this is important, even if they address council in an open meeting and reveal a lot of their personal financial details or situation, when it comes to making the decision, these are all deliberated in private. These are all done in camera, and the reason is because you're going to be often discussing very openly and candidly people's personal information, and that's just not appropriate to do in an open meeting. That's not fair to them. So just so you're aware, this is the way it's always been done, and that's the reason why is a very good reason under FOIP that you do that. So you still have to, of course, when you've made a decision or when you're ready to make a decision, that has to be done by a motion in the open meeting. But the actual deliberation is very similar to SDAB. If you ever watched the way they work, their deliberations are in camera, and then they come out and they give their decision in public. But the discussion is all in camera. So that's the way this will come down. Even for the person who wants to address you in public, that's fine, but you'll still deliberate that case in camera.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions? Nothing for, okay. Mr. Scoble, I've got a request for December 6th. Would it be possible, if it's easy to do, to get statistics on how many structural fires we see in St. Albert? Is that something that's easy to find?
Yeah. For what period?
I don't know, a couple of years or something like that, like just to give a sense, especially for new counselors, just how many of those we see.
On structural fires as it relates to commercial or relates to actual residential?
I don't have anything specific, and I can send that as an IR if you prefer.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll take it away.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. So last chance, Councillor Killick. On that note, this meeting's adjourned. Thanks so much, everyone. 30 minutes. Good job. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Bannerman. Thanks, Diane.